Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Good morning, my friends. Welcome back to J is for Justice. My name is Jay. I am your host. J is for Justice, it's Jay. If you like what you see, please click the like button. And if you would like to see more, make sure that you subscribe. I want to welcome all the moderators that came in this morning to moderate for me. We got Angie, Jammers, Shell, and do we have a Mike Sanner in the house? I haven't seen Mike yet, but good morning, ladies. Good morning, all the loungers as well. If you would like to become a lounger, one of the moderators can assist you in letting you know how to become a member of the group. Just a reminder today for all the Patreons at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing just an open forum discussion, Q&A, whatever the case may be, whatever you guys want to talk about. It's your night in Patreon. And if I can figure out how to get the loungers also in Patreon, I'm going to do that too. I want to kind of bring everybody together if I can. So be looking for a member post in the community if I'm able to pull that off. I don't know if the settings are going to let me do it, but I'm going to try because I want to include as many people as we can. And if you are a Patreon and you don't know how to get to the live streams, please ask someone in chat. Good morning, Elliot. I am broadcasting from Eastern United States, from sunny Florida. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be living in the sunny Florida, but I might be moving. More to come on that. All right, let's get over to our boob tube and get into today's stream. And I want to thank, right off the bat, Allison. Thank you for your super sticker. Much, much appreciated. And also to Leslie Watkins, the lovely Leslie. Thank you for your support. Every little bit helps. I know you guys know I was demonetized for 3 months. It was hell. I don't even know how to describe living that way. And I'm not trying to woe is me, but I don't get paid again until next August 21st. So every little bit helps so much in getting me caught up. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Or is it a cigar?
We have Summer Lou on doggy cam over here this morning. She has taken her nap. Yeah, I don't know. Life's up in the air. Got some things going on, and I'll be able to talk about it soon.
What?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm going off the grid. I'm just kidding. Just some thoughts in the works. So today we're going to start by going over this podcast, the ABC podcast about the investigation. But first I want to open up because I see you guys have a lot to say about the investigation. You guys have a lot of thoughts. You guys have a lot of questions, and someone even sent over something for me to go over. So if we get to that, I want to thank you first for sending that on. But we're going to go over this podcast first, and then I'm going to put up a Q&A right now so you can put your comments or questions, and then I can go over them before we end the stream. So look up by the chat where it says live chat. You should see questions, and you can go ahead and ask or comment there, and then I'll go over what you guys have to say. That way I don't miss any questions or comments that you guys have to say. I hate missing them because sometimes I'll have a moderator go, hey, did you see so-and-so said this, and I miss it. So go ahead and put your comments or questions there, and we'll go over them before we end the stream. You're a Southern Hoosier. Interesting. Well, welcome, Elliot Polak. I've seen you before, Elliot. I hope you behave. You're more than welcome here, and you're more than welcome to your opinions, but I hope you behave. I know you've teetered, Elliot, but welcome. Good morning, everyone. Get your hot coffee ready. We're going to start playing this podcast about the investigation. It's going to be, well, let me pull it up. I can share the screen. It's nothing to see, but at least you can see the podcast. And if you want to go listen to it yourself, you'll know what it looks like. I happen to listen to it on Apple Podcasts. So let's get this up here. Thanks for bearing with me, and I hope you guys are having a very glorious hump day. I just heard my cat meowing to get in. All right. I might have to go grab her if she continues her antics. So Emmy is outside, I think, meow, wanting to come see you guys. All right, let me get this up here. And Melissa B, you got your shirt. Awesome. Make sure you send us a pic of your beautiful self in your shirt. Good morning, Paper Chaser. Top of the morning to you. All right, here we go, guys. Let's get started.
They love this town. They've raised their kids here. Chief Fry has college-age kids of his own.
We love being the protectors. The community is who we are, and we are part of the community.
But nearly 3 weeks after the murders, police hadn't identified a suspect. They seemed no closer to solving the case. Residents were on edge and impatient. As we mentioned in the last episode, some doubted the Moscow PD would be able to solve the case.
It must be hard to feel so close to this and to also hear public criticism at the same time.
Yeah, we understand. Everybody wants to know. Everybody wants answers, and we understand that. We want to give those answers as soon as we can. But there's some integrity that we have to withhold in this case. And that starts from the very onset of the case all the way through prosecution. We want to ensure that, and we owe that to our community. We're going to continue to provide safety for our community. We're going to continue to work hard on this case. We're not going to let our guard down. We're going to continue. We owe it to them.
Or is it a cigar?
The Moscow Police Department is small, only 35 people. They're more accustomed to responding to reports of animals on the loose and stolen bikes. There hadn't been a homicide in Moscow in 7 years.
Okay, let's stop right there for a second. Let's unpack Fry. Did you hear him? Let's do this. Do you think that Chief Fry's emotion in this interview is genuine? You guys, a podcast is audio. Not all podcasts are video. Most podcasts are audio only. So we're listening. We're putting on our listening ears. You have the lovely out of bed Jay is for Justice to look at. Why would you complain? Straight out of the bed. Come on now. I feel like Chief Fry is genuine. I'm just saying it. I'm putting it out there. I feel like he's genuine. I don't think he's up to any bad or being malicious with the investigation. That's my thoughts. That is the podcast host. She's an ABC contributor, correspondent. Her name is... I knew you guys were going to ask this. I should have had it ready. So her name is Kana. Kana Whitworth is your host. This is who you're seeing. See her? That's whose voice it is. And I guess I didn't get the clip, but in the very beginning, he said, or she asked him, do you need a tissue? Do you need a tissue? He was crying. He was more than nervous. He was crying. He was crying because she asked him if he needed a tissue. You can't fake tears. You really can't. Let's keep going.
The Moscow Police Department is small, only 35 people. They're more accustomed to responding to reports of animals on the loose and stolen bikes. There hadn't been a homicide in Moscow in 7 years. And for the officers who first walked into that King Road house, it was horrific. These were the same officers who'd responded to noise complaints about the house. They'd talked to and interacted with these students before, and now they were investigating their murders.
What you see sometimes shocks the conscience, and we're taking care of our officers. You know, we brought
Okay, before we listen to his full statement about the officers, I want you guys to think about all the podcasts and videos that have been made about these officers and the nasty things that have been said about them. Now, imagine that you're a Moscow police officer and you are investigating an unconscious person. And you've been there and you've given them noise complaints and you've seen these young kids and you've even related in Blaker's case with these kids by saying, you know, I went to school here too. I did what you're doing. Dump out the booze. And then he walks in and he has to see them stabbed to death. You got to think about their psyches, man. This is real. They walked in and saw that. Good morning, Potato, my favorite Brit.
Acted with these students before, and now they were investigating their murders.
What you see sometimes shocks the conscience, and we're taking care of our officers. You know, we brought in counselors, but we're going further than that. We took the counseling to the families as well, wives, kids, because we know that if we can build a strong family unit, that helps us serve our community even better.
The one source of comfort Chief Fry could offer his officers, the victims' families, and the community of Moscow would be putting the person responsible for these deaths behind bars. Could his small department be made public?
Okay.
It was seeking help.
That's my clip. So I clipped parts of it. Obviously, we can't play this in its entirety. So I picked the important parts that I thought were important that I hadn't heard before to share with y'all. Welcome to Janice. It's lovely. I love seeing you, Janice. I hope you're doing good. Don't get in trouble at work. And Jessica, I just want to say I'm so sorry.
For an unconscious person at a house on King Road. But as soon as officers entered the house, it was clear they were dealing with something much more serious. They discovered 4 bodies, and the victims were far beyond saving. The mayor told me the officers carefully backed out of the house, closed the door, and applied for a warrant, allowing them to enter the home and begin processing it as a crime scene.
Okay, and remember the other day when I had Daniel from Drunk Turkey on, that he revealed that he had found out that it was Ethan's best friend that went in and, you know, to see what was wrong, that he was one of the ones called over, and that he tried to open the bedroom door of Xana's room and he couldn't open it because Ethan was dead in front of it. So you got to think about all of these people, their emotional state when you're running around YouTube or running around Facebook or running around Twitter, taking things that are speculation and stating them as fact. And that's why I want to talk to you guys about a new rule here. So, and it's not really a rule, but I'm just asking if you guys have something that you've heard or seen and you want to talk about it in chat, please say, or if it's your thought, please say, I think, or I read, or something like that instead of stating it as fact. Because I want to try to keep the rumor mill down on these cases that get blown out. So let's say like Detra just said, we heard that Kaylee's mom confirmed it was Hunter who found them. So think about Hunter and what he's going through. Think about the cops and what they're going through.
Once Chief Fry learned the severity of the situation, he said he called Idaho State Police right away, followed by the FBI. Moscow PD would remain the lead on the investigation because the killings weren't a federal crime, but the bigger agencies would lend more investigative heft to the small department.
Okay, can we talk about the federal crime for a minute? When I was listening to this, I was like, why isn't it a federal crime? If he lived in Washington, and maybe someone can let me know this. Mark. Hey, Mark, how you doing? He lived in Washington. He traveled to Idaho to commit a quadruple murder, and then he traveled to Pennsylvania. So what does it take to make it a federal case? Does anyone know? Does anyone know why it's not a federal case? If he crossed state lines of where he lived to go commit the murder, would it make it a federal case or no? I don't know. I don't know how that works. What justifies making it a federal case? Because Brian Laundrie's was a federal case. When he had his arrest warrant was released, it was a federal arrest warrant, wasn't it? Or was it Wyoming? Let me know what you guys think of that, or if you have any info on that.
The mayor told me that initially, Moscow PD had a hard time determining what might be evidence, what might be remnants of a struggle with a killer, and what was just an untidy college house. Over the next few weeks, authorities say they sent more than 100 items to the Idaho State Crime Lab for processing. Remember, this is a 6-bedroom house where 5 college kids lived. It's also a big party house where tons of people came and went. There were fingerprints and DNA everywhere. The amount of evidence to collect and items to process within the home was staggering.
Oh, okay. Thanks, guys, for clearing that up. If the bodies are over state lines, and also you're right, it was a national park, too. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm going to have a criminal defense lawyer on Friday. Maybe we can ask him that.
The layout of the house on the hill is really important to understanding the crime scene. The 3-level home is incredibly exposed. There's no fencing. It's easy to see inside. When you're looking at the front of the house, the main entryway is decorated with a golden wreath. The door unlocks with a keypad. You open that front door, and on either side of the entryway is a bedroom, one of which and Maddie were cremated, and that he was in possession of both girls' urns.
All right, so now we're going to be moving on to Steve Gonsalves. That was the end of the first part of the investigation with the cops. So she goes in, she explains the layout of the house, and we said earlier in episode 2 that the crime scene was contained to the bedrooms. It was contained to the bedrooms. And hello, Jenny W. And hello, Flo. Now we're moving into Steve Gonsalves. And now they're going to tell us that Steve Gonsalves has possession of Maddie and Kaylee's remains that were cremated and their death certificates, both of them. But then they go on to say that by the death certificate, Steve was able to tell Kaylee's injuries were worse than Maddie's. I don't live in Idaho. I've never seen an Idaho death certificate, but the death certificates that I've seen have never stated anything about injuries. It just said cause of death. Elliot, awesome. Awesome, Elliot. Thank you. No, I don't believe that taper gene girl. They didn't have enough evidence for the prelim. That's why they took it to the grand jury. So it would be federal. It's not a federal case. It's an Idaho state case. And I think they had enough evidence. I think they just didn't want all the witnesses to have to be traumatized again by Bryan Kohberger's defense team by having to testify at a prelim. Hey, Mike Sanner. Good morning. I was looking for you. I got your email this morning. All good. All good. Murder is usually a state crime. Nat Cat, welcome. All right. So why? Yeah, I don't know why he has her remains. I don't know. I think it's weird. I think it's weird because she has a mom and a dad. Why don't they have her remains? Why don't they have her death certificate? All right, here we go. Let's listen to this part. This is going to be Steve Gonsalves and the podcaster.
Open that front door, and on either side of the entryway is a bedroom, one of which and Maddie were cremated, and that he was in possession of both girls' urns and death certificates. Steve learned from the death certificates that his daughter's injuries were far more significant than Maddie's. And that left him with a chilling question. Was Kaylee the killer's intended victim? He worried that the other students might simply have been collateral damage.
Do you think that
Weird.
Kaylee specifically was targeted?
It's a fear of mine. When you have something like this happen, the last thing you want to do is hurt the other family, and you don't want to have any kind of responsibility for those people to feel like they were just casualties. And that goes for their child. If one of their children was a target, I have no ill will whatsoever. There's only one real bad person.
Steve wanted to put all of his energy into catching the person who was actually responsible for the loss of his daughter, and he was worried that police were missing some critical evidence. Authorities had been urging everybody with an outdoor camera to send in video from the night of the attacks. They made it a point of stating that anything, even something happening in the back, fall.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Someone just said, I think they were cremated together. That would make more sense, but why? Maybe a cost issue, or is it an emotional thing? I don't know. But someone just said that medical death certificates provide more information. So maybe that's what he was in possession of. I don't know. I know that when my parents passed away, the death certificate did not say like any details. Elliot, trigger warning. Kaylee's death certificate could have said multiple stab wounds, blunt force trauma. Oh, okay. Got you. I'm not going to read that out loud, but I get it, Elliot. It could have been specific to the fatal injuries is what you're saying. So like there could have been injuries other parts of the body, but they only listed the parts where, where it was the fatal wound. Is that what you're getting at, Elliot? Detra Ed, so he doesn't know how bad Ethan and Xana's injuries were. He's just comparing Maddie's and Kaylee's. Yes. Shell, just let everybody know. A reminder, we are almost to 90K, and I said I would do whatever you guys want when I hit 90K. We're almost there, guys. We're at 89 something. Sad, I should know this. I check it like a banshee. We are at 88.5 subscribers, I think. 88,500 subscribers. Guys, we are so close, I can taste it. So close, and we're going to celebrate at 100K. I'm going to get that check mark. Yeah, bitches, we're at 88,602 subscribers. 88,602. I want to beat a 90 by September 1st. Do you think we can do it? You think we can get to 90,000 by September 1st? I think we can do it. You guys should all be proud. You're all part of it. Tracy. Okay, I saw your emails, Trace. I see. You sent me YouTube videos. Idaho 4 doc, no autopsy, body cam photos, notes exist. Court docs reveal DNA link to Bryan Kohberger. I have both of those from you, one in June and one from today. Okay. I can't play someone else's video, but we can talk about that. And I just want to put a thought out there right now. Do you think that it's possible, and thank you, Jammers, for liking my shirt, and Radiant Sunshine, welcome to chat. So, do you guys think that it's possible that the cops, see, because they're only asking if the cops have documentation from the autopsies. The coroner always has photos of the autopsy. That's their job. So to say that there's no photos of the autopsy, I think you're just taking one motion where it says that these three cops or whoever those people are cops, agents, that they don't have body cam or notes, that doesn't mean that none exist. That just means that the cops didn't take any. I don't know any cops that go to autopsies that snap photos. I might be off base here, but I don't think that's their job. So, I mean, if you think that the coroner of Lake or whatever county, Spokane, was it in Washington, where the autopsies were done? Do you think that, Lucia, you haven't missed shit. Do you think that they didn't take pictures as the coroner or the medical examiner, rather? The medical examiner's job is to take the pictures. There's pictures. They're just I'm telling you what he's trying to do. They don't have to exist from those 3 officers. We don't need them to exist from those 3 officers. But do you know what that did, Tracy? Bryan Kohberger's tactic worked on you. And he wants it to work on other jurors that could be picked. He wants you to doubt the investigation. He wants you to think those 3 officers were supposed to take pictures and didn't. That's not their job. They're not supposed to take pictures. But he's putting that doubt in the minds of potential jurors. And I just don't think that matters. I think it's a bunch of nothing Kohbergers. And I think he's putting shit out there to make people doubt the cops. He has no idea where this trial is going to be. He has no idea where the jurors are going to be pulled from. But he does know that everybody and their brother's talking about this case. And if he can get this out in official documents that possibly these cops didn't do something or got rid of evidence, he's forever trying to put doubt of the cops and this investigation in the minds of the people who are going to be the potential people who decide his fate of whether he goes in front of a firing squad or not. I don't see why they would have to make any documentation. No, it's not their job. They're there to witness it. I don't think they have to document and take pictures, and I don't think they're supposed to. Right, exactly, Diana. Those 3 don't have anything to do with autopsies. But he's fooled you. He's tricked you like he wanted to. And he wants to put some doubt out there. Misbehaving. Thank you, girl. That's what I'm saying. You got to be smarter than the average Kohberger.
For donuts?
You seriously cannot think that the coroner and the pathologist didn't do an autopsy and take photos and all of that. That's where it comes from. Because cops aren't trained to take autopsy photos. So why would photos be admitted that a cop took? Hell yeah, Suzanne. I think the prosecution is cocked, locked, and ready to fucking go in October. And not only that, he's further traumatizing everyone by bringing up the autopsy. Like, isn't it bad enough that the cops had to witness the autopsy? That they had to be there? Isn't that bad enough? But then you think that they took pictures? If they took pictures, I think they might be in trouble. I don't think they're there to do that. I think, well, the defense is slimy, but they're slimy because they're satisfying Kohberger's wants and needs. You know what I mean? Paul Ward. Ew. Paul Ward. Wait, I got a soundbite for you, Paul. Oh, Lord, you can't make this chat up sometimes, guys. You really can't.
Niggas wife me once they get that good punani.
That's for you, Paul. I've watched enough ID to know lead detectives sometimes attend to put the crimes together, but they don't do pics. Exactly. So we put that baby to bed. Just stop. I need Judge Warner. Stop. Do we have that? I don't think we have stop anymore, but we need stop.
It's inappropriate.
I agree.
So you got to be smarter than the average blowburger. Okay? And we are here. We here at Jays for Justice, all of us, all 434 minds are put together, and we know that cops don't attend autopsies to do body cam video, pictures, or take notes. They might take notes if it's part of the investigation. So, W. Smith, why did they take a pic of Kaylee's ID? First of all, who's they? If you could clarify who they is, W. W. Who's they? Who took a pic of Kaylee's ID? ID channel's your jam? Whoop, whoop. Mine too. Oh my God, Paul Ward. There's already reasonable doubt. How could he walk away, though, with no DNA found in his car, office, or apartment? This is me wanting to understand this death penalty evidence warranted. It's already out. You don't have all of the evidence yet, Trace. We have to wait. We have to wait for the evidence for trial. Unfortunately, we just have to be patient sometimes. I disagree, Taper Jean Girl. No, they don't. My sister was an officer and a detective at one point who attended autopsies. That's not their job. Sorry, it's just not. The police during the noise complaint, why did they take a picture of ID? Maybe instead of writing it down. Right? Usually when you have a complaint at your house or something, like you give them your ID and they like write down your name, date of birth. Instead of doing that just so they could get the fuck out of there because they had already waited how long for the kids to come to the door? He was probably just like, all right, keep it down. I'm telling you. Don't fall for the Blowburger antics. Let's keep going.
Turned to winter in Moscow, and the victims' families began their first holiday season without their loved ones. It wasn't until December 7th that they received some hopeful news from law enforcement.
Here we go. December 7th.
3.5 weeks after the murders, police finally had what appeared to be a promising lead. Moscow PD issued a bulletin that they were on the hunt for a very specific vehicle, a white Hyundai Elantra, made between 2011 and 2013. They hoped to learn if its occupant or occupants had any information in regards to the case.
The police started communicating with everyone, putting the word out via press releases, interviews. We want footage.
Okay, so that is the reporter from UI. This is the reporter / radio host from UI. We heard her, I think, in episode 1 or 2 that we went over.
Occupant or occupants had any information in regards to the case.
The police started communicating with everyone, putting the word out via press releases, interviews. We want footage. They gave us maps of all the areas. They were trying to pull any surveillance footage from people's cameras, doorbells, whatever they could find to get footage of this white Elantra.
Lauren Patterson, the public radio reporter, remembers the community's excitement at a single concrete clue.
Listen to this.
Something they could help search for.
When we heard about the white car, I feel like a lot of locals really thought, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere with this. We had something to go on. There was a tip. There was something specific.
Yo.
However, the excitement over the lead was short-lived when citizens began to realize just how daunting a task it would be for police to sift through such a high volume of tips and surveillance footage. Katie, a close friend of the murder victims, recalls the frenzy.
Okay, so now we're going to listen to Katie. We heard Katie in the first 2 episodes. Katie told us about Maddie and Kaylee's friendship. She shared with us what went down that morning, that she had heard something and she texted Kaylee. Kaylee didn't respond. She was very emotional when talking about this. So let's listen to what Katie has to say about when the news broke on December 7th that it was made public that they were looking for a white Elantra.
Katie, a close friend of the murder victims, recalls the frenzy.
I mean, I'm like, I've seen a trillion white little cars. And I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen a launcher. I'm not sure. So I was like, I'm sure somebody knows. So I was like, just assuming it was going to be pretty quick after that.
This new call to action for the community brought in yet another deluge of tips. So many that police had to redirect the tip line to the FBI Global Call Center.
See? Can you imagine how many white cars were called in on tips? Oh my gosh. I think they totally knew. I think that was just the date they went public with. The car was December 7th. I think they knew prior to that.
Idaho State Police were also visible on the ground in Moscow, supporting the investigation. But like Moscow PD, they didn't share much information. It wasn't until my producer Timmy got a parking ticket on campus and chatted up an officer that we finally got permission to do a ride-along.
This is great. Okay, so this is... All right, so this lady traveled to Moscow because she got a tip that, you know, all this was going on. So her and her producer, Timmy, they travel to Moscow. Timmy gets a parking ticket. And during this time is when they're investigating this case and everything. Well, Idaho State Police lets them ride along, and we get some audio from that. Let's listen.
This town is, it's a little bit eerie here.
That's how we ended up driving through campus with Sergeant Kurt Sproat from Idaho State Police. He was working on the investigation, and on this particular day, he was on campus doing patrols at the request of the University of Idaho. On the day of our ride-along in mid-December, a month after the murders, there was a huge snowstorm. As we drove, we watched the campus become absolutely covered by a blanket of thick, wet snow.
So right now, we're driving sort of this road that kind of almost wraps around the outskirts of campus. Campus is on our left, fully secured, lights everywhere, cameras everywhere. Right to the right, this is Fraternity Row. And then right down here, so this is the hill, and then there's the murder scene, right there.
Sergeant Sproat was based in Boise, 6 hours away. But like so many in the area, he felt the statewide pain of these murders. There were memorials for these students in Boise and other places in the region. Sergeant Sproat was glad to be patrolling the campus, proud to be protecting it.
I know that, authorities have said they've received an influx in calls, really, from people that were on edge.
Yeah, I spoke to someone who lives in the area yesterday. I had made a traffic stop over by his residence, and he wanted to make sure everything was okay, and there was no reason to be of concern.
So does he mean he made a traffic stop over by Bryan's residence? Whose residence? What's he talking about? Hold on. I'm confused.
Yeah, I spoke to someone who lives in the area yesterday. I had made a traffic stop over by his residence, and he wanted to make sure everything was okay, and there was no reason to be of concern. And it wasn't pertinent to the investigation, but it kind of just shows the mindset of community members and students around here with what happened.
I don't understand.
One of the questions I wanted to ask him is where he thought the killer was.
Do you think that this person has left town, or do you think this person is assimilated?
Listen to this. Wait for it.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that one.
Okay. But you do have an opinion?
Yes.
Okay, it is what it is.
Yeah. In other words, he knew he was close. They knew who they were looking for, I think, anyways.
Privately. And he told me now it's okay if I share this conversation.
Okay, so when she recorded this with him, this just came out not too long ago. But when she recorded this with him last year in December, he said you can't share it yet. But now he says you can share this part of the conversation. So listen.
I asked him, with this huge head start, and given that we're only, a few hours from the border to Canada, Did he think the suspect had made a run for it and could be anywhere? He looked at me right in my eyes and said, "I think he's here. God is not on his side. We're gonna get him." That really stuck with me. Just this gut feeling he had. I kept it in the back of my mind as detectives kept working the case and I kept working the story.
I don't think it was a gut feeling. I think they knew exactly who their person of interest was, and I think that they were watching him. And that's why Chief Fry, I believe, said there isn't a danger to the community. And I don't think that there was because they were watching him.
I had no idea if the killer was in our midst or far away. It would turn out to be both. In front of me, Kohberger was dressed in a bulletproof vest specifically for his...
Okay, this is interesting. She was in the courtroom for the arraignment, for the initial arraignment of Kohberger. And she describes it so well. Listen to this. This is her sitting in the courtroom waiting for Kohberger to have his arraignment.
Turn out to be both.
Here we go.
In front of me, Kohberger was dressed in a bulletproof vest specifically for his walk from the prison van into the courthouse. That would put him in plain view of the public, and authorities were concerned someone might try to harm him. The Kohberger family sat directly in front of me. His mother, Marianne, wore all black and sobbed all the way through the hearing.
Isn't that heartbreaking? That broke my heart. That broke my heart to hear that. She just sat there and sobbed. And then her son turned around and said, "I love you." She sobbed the whole time, you guys. Marianne Kohberger.
Killer was in our midst or far away.
Oops.
It was in a bulletproof vest specifically for his walk from the prison van into the courthouse. That would put him in plain view of the public, and authorities were concerned someone might try to harm him. The Kohberger family sat directly in front of me. His mother, Marianne, wore all black and sobbed all the way through the hearing. His sister, Melissa, sat next to her mother and tried to comfort her.
Sad.
Somehow, Melissa's dark eye makeup didn't smear through her own tears. Next to Melissa sat his other sister, Amanda, who looks just like him. At the end of the bench, Bryan Kohberger's father, Michael, his face dissolving into tears even before the hearing began. Throughout the proceedings, Kohberger turned around to look at his family, giving...
Interesting, she doesn't make any mention of his dad. I found that to be very, very interesting. Like, Marianne was crying. Melissa was comforting her. Breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. But what about Dad Kohberger? What was he doing? Still trying to walk in?
And tried to comfort her. Somehow, Melissa's dark eye makeup didn't smear through her own tears. Next to Melissa sat his other sister, Amanda, who looks just like him. At the end of the bench, Bryan Kohberger's father, Michael, his face dissolving into tears.
Oh, okay, I take that back. Michael, they were all very emotional. I'm sorry, I missed that, Mama Linda. Jackie Bushable. Bushes of peaches. I love it. Thank you for your super sticker, Jackie.
All black and sobbed all the way through the hearing.
I missed that.
His sister Melissa sat next to her mother and tried to comfort her. Somehow Melissa's dark eye makeup didn't smear through her own tears. Next to Melissa sat his other sister Amanda, who looks just like him. At the end of the bench, Bryan Kohberger's father, Michael, his face dissolving into tears even before the hearing began.
Oh, man.
Throughout the proceedings, Kohberger turned around to look at his family, giving them glances and nods. He waived his right to extradition, which meant he'd return to Moscow immediately to face charges. Some legal experts believe he may have waived his right to extradition as a tactical move. If he returned to Idaho right away, the state would need to be ready to prosecute him, whereas choosing to fight extradition would have stalled matters and given the prosecution extra time to prepare their case. Kohberger bent awkwardly to sign the document with his left hand. He was still in cuffs. As he was ushered out of the courtroom, he looked back at his seated family and, clear as day, mouthed the words, "I love you."
So his whole family's sitting there in tears. They're busted up from the inside out. And he turns around and says, "I love you." Wild, isn't it? Wild. We know that Taper Jean girl. But it doesn't mean that they didn't locate the car and know who he was earlier. They only have to put in the PCAC. This is what we have to understand too, okay? A, let's get this out there. Cops, it's not the cops' job to take body cam or pictures of autopsies. It's not their job. And then let's get the other thing out there. The arrest affidavit is only enough evidence to arrest. You still have to go to trial and lay out your whole case with all your evidence. But for that little affidavit, just to arrest, you only have to put enough to convince a judge or a grand jury of enough to hold him over for trial. So I think we need to keep those basic principles in mind.
Bedroom door and locked herself in.
Okay, now we're on to the roommates, I think. Hold on. Back to the investigation.
In addition to the roommate story, we also learned that at 4:17 a.m., a neighbor's outdoor camera picked up distorted audio of what sounded like whimpering or maybe a voice, followed by a loud thud. I was later told by a source that police believe these were the sounds of Kaylee fighting her attacker.
Okay, this is all brand new, guys. This is all brand new. This is the most important part to me. We have to think about this and unpack it slowly. We always thought that the noise that was picked up on that outdoor camera on the side of Xana's room was Xana's room, and the noise is made by Xana and or Ethan.
You don't hold account.
But now we're hearing that a source told ABC that it was actually Kaylee. Thank you for subscribing, Dana. And CR, thank you for your super chat. And Allison BD, thank you for your super chat. Thank you guys. You're keeping me going here. I'm loving it. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. You're going to need extra slaw in a second. I think you're going to need some extra slaw.
Guess he's going to need extra slaw in a second.
At the same time, a dog, possibly her dog Murphy, could be heard barking. But perhaps the biggest bombshell we learned in the affidavit is that law enforcement was able to collect DNA from the scene of the crime that they believe belongs to the killer. According to the affidavit, the Idaho State Crime Lab found DNA on a knife sheath they recovered from Maddie's bed next to her body. A law enforcement source told me later that saying the sheath was located on the bed next to Madison is a bit misleading, that it was discovered sort of underneath her, giving investigators an indication that the suspect might have lost sight of it during the attack.
Right. So Brookie, does that mean that Kaylee was last? That's what I'm saying. Like, if we believe that noise came from upstairs versus Xana's room, does that mean that Xana and Ethan were first? Get what I'm saying? Did he go? Because remember, Steve G always said he didn't have to go up those stairs. He didn't have to go up those stairs. Yeah, DM would have heard that thud possibly.
The sheath belonged to a military fighting knife described as a K-bar with a 7-inch blade.
Ugh.
We talked with an expert in forensic sciences to better understand what's called touch DNA. Dr. Daniel Padini explains how easy it is to leave your DNA behind.
The sample collected from the button of this knife sheath yielded a single source male DNA profile, meaning that it originated from a single individual. To confirm that they were the person that left their DNA on the knife sheath, they had to collect a sample directly from him or direct relatives.
But if he went upstairs last and then exited, how did Dylan see him walk past her door? Wait a minute. Let's talk about this. Could Dylan have seen him come from downstairs and go into the room or into the kitchen and then leave? I can't remember. I'm going to have to count on you guys in your PCA memories. But did it specify which direction he was coming past her door to go into the kitchen to exit the house? There's no drugs, Lisa. We have no evidence of drugs. We can't even... How could we speculate on buying drugs when we have no evidence that anyone sold drugs there? We can't. That takes us way out in left field. Detra says, in my opinion, he would run into Xana first because she was awake and getting her order. Yeah, the drugs, we can't even entertain that. There's absolutely no evidence of drugs. None. I mean, that's like throwing in, BK kidnapped someone too. I mean, it's so out of left field. Like, we have no evidence of that. Why bring it into it? I don't believe that ABC's getting it wrong. I think that they're getting more accurate information than you're getting from YouTubers. I can tell you that. So what I want to know is, does it specifically say which direction, which room he walked past her door? Because I don't remember it saying that. Because he could have come downstairs, walked past, and went into the kitchen. Or he could have came from the living room. I don't know if we know that. Oh my God. If anybody mentions drugs, you lose a testicle. We're not entertaining the drug theory. There is no drugs. There's no evidence of drugs. And it derails the entire conversation. So if you say drugs, you lose a testicle.
If you say Ferris Bueller, you lose a testicle.
Oh, I know. Look at my dog. Tracy, see, that's what I mean. You can't state, Jay, these audios are false. You have to say, I think these audios are false, or else you're putting statements out there that you don't know to be true. Ooh, paperchaser.com coming in hot. Dylan seems suspect to me. I just can't get over 911 being called 8 hours after the murders and not by the roommates. I totally can. They called friends over. And they probably couldn't get a hold of anyone until people woke up. Rule number 1,965, 8,000. No drug talk. Not today, anyways. Not today. I like the discussions to be focused. And we're not talking about drugs. There's no evidence of drugs. If you say drugs, you lose a testicle. Yes, that's what I said.
If you say Ferris Bueller, you lose a testicle.
And this is where the investigation started to feel more like something out of a TV show.
So what they did is they went through the trash of the family and were able to generate the DNA profile from objects that were collected from the trash.
If you don't have testicles, just pretend. So, I know my dog is cracking me up. Oh, man. It doesn't say which direction he's coming from. Okay, Potato's checking the PCA to see if there is, if it's mentioned. All right, just to recap, if you are just joining, click the like button and I'll give you a recap. Just kidding. We're listening to the King Road Killings, episode 3. I cut some important parts and we're going over it. So this is mainly the investigation and all of that. I don't think the audio is in the PCA. No. Yeah, she does. She does that when she sleeps. All right, let's continue.
And the DNA profile was consistent from originating from the biological father of the DNA from the knife sheath.
Okay, I have a question about the DNA. When I listened to this, I was like, why? Okay. We listen to all these cases where they get this, they're doing this like genetic DNA testing. Why didn't they get Kohberger's DNA from the trash? Why was it just his dad? Well, don't say drugs, jammers, and you'll be all right. Why did they do that? Dude, you people that believe everything that the defense puts in motions are cray-cray. You can't believe everything that the defense puts in a motion. Amicas.
Learned from the Pennsylvania State Police that for 4 days before his arrest, the FBI had Kohberger under surveillance at his family home in the Poconos. According to the affidavit, on December 27th, law enforcement seized some household garbage the Kohberger family had left outside for collection. They obtained DNA from the trash that they could compare with the sample from the knife sheath. And they got a match, a familial match.
Based on the results obtained in this case, we can say that there's 99.9998% probability that the individual that left their DNA on the trash that was tested is the biological father of the individual that touched the button of the knife sheath.
So Kohberger's DNA is nowhere else on that knife sheath other than the button, and y'all think he didn't do it? Holy!
I was told by a source Kohberger's DNA was later taken in jail and found to be a match to the DNA found on the sheath. Again, this is huge. It means DNA experts were able to show with a really high level of certainty that at some point, Bryan Kohberger came into contact with the knife sheath left at the crime scene. The night of the murders.
Okay, that's the end of that segment. Let's see what this one is.
Authorities say Kohberger's phone pinged off a cell tower in Pullman near his residence.
No, but the knife that fits in it did. A sheath doesn't kill anyone? No, but the knife that fits in it does.
Headed out of town. We're at an intersection and you see the signs. Moscow one way, Pullman the other. There's another cell tower right there. Cell phones rely on these towers for service and leave behind a data trail of where the phone has connected. A connection with a tower is referred to as a ping. The cell phone data doesn't pinpoint the exact location of a phone, but can give a rough idea of the area where the phone has been. A cell tower's range can be anywhere from under a mile in densely populated areas to about 25 miles in rural sprawls. According to the affidavit, while Kohberger's phone was on its way out of Pullman at 2:47 a.m., the phone stopped reporting to the network, indicating it was either turned off or put on airplane mode.
I have a question for Willie. Why do you think that touch DNA is no good for this case or for a death penalty case? Thank you, Chihuahua Dawson. Says well-spoken, upfront, factual, and spicy. It's a thumbs up from Sydney, Australia. Thank you for your Aussie super chat. And if you recall, you guys are so stuck on the DNA. Remember in Washington, they said, you know what, Judge? If you don't have to use the DNA to give us this search warrant to search this dude's house, you don't have to. The DNA is not all they have. But yeah, I understand. He was wearing gloves and all this, that, and the other. But they got, I was just thinking about that because of the pizza crust they got from Rex Heuermann. They say that saliva is the best DNA to get off of an item. So it's just weird that they weren't able to get like his mouth on anything. Like, I guess you'd have to follow him to a restaurant or something.
So is that a joint?
Dawson, is that a cigar? Well, they're going to use more than pings. Cell phone evidence. If you watched the Murdaugh trial and you have watched this Rex Heuermann, how they caught him, cell footage and digital evidence goes way further than pings. It's way deeper than pings. We're talking to have a burner phone, you have to have an email. So you have a fictitious email, then you have searches associated with the fictitious email, yada, yada, yada. There's more than just pings when it comes to digital footprints and cellular evidence. All right, let's see the next.
A half hour later, security cameras in Moscow picked up a white Elantra passing the house on King Road 3 times between 3:20 a.m. and 4:04 a.m. Authorities believe the murders took place between 4 and 4:25 a.m. The Elantra was then seen passing by the house a 4th and final time around 4:20 a.m., heading south out of town. The phone didn't report to the network again until 4:48 a.m., at which point it was on State Highway 95 south of Moscow.
All right, so this guy, you guys don't think this guy did it. He just happened to be in the area, and then he just happened to shut his phone off after these 4 students were murdered. Welcome, Hellcat. Thank you for becoming a member. Welcome. Do you know what I'm saying, though? Like, he's going to drive by their house like 4 or 5 times. I mean, you got to put all these things together. It's not one thing. It's all the things. That's why you have a trial where you present your evidence.
So is that a joint?
Because it's not just what's in the PCA.
Or is it a cigar?
If that was it, why do we need a trial? You know? Me. Been a member for 2 months. Thank you.
At 5:30 a.m., the morning of the murders, Kohberger's phone traveled back to Pullman, toward his home. As we were driving, we immediately realized this is a really roundabout way to get from the crime scene back to Pullman.
Sure is.
There's a much more direct route between the 2 towns that would take about 20 minutes. It took us roughly 50 minutes to get from the murder scene back to Bryan Kohberger's apartment following the cell phone pings mentioned in the affidavit of how authorities believe he returned home. So that's strange, and it's tough to know what to make of that route. And the fact that, according to authorities, Kohberger's cell phone seems to turn off and on. The affidavit says the suspect's phone made one more trip back to Moscow the next morning, well after the murders. Between 9:12 and 9:21 a.m., Kohberger's cell phone pinged off a tower that shares service with King Road. But the house would have still been quiet. No police or emergency medical services outside. No crowd of observers. No media reporting on the horrific crimes. Yet, it would still be 2.5 more hours before anyone would call 911. The house held a secret that authorities say only the killer knew. Any questions?
No, it was me. I keep muting because I'm coughing. Now the next section, let's see what this is about. Cornwall, Cornhole, UK. Welcome, Sharan.
Lauren says in hindsight, it makes more sense.
Chihuahua Dawson became a member. Welcome to the lounge. God.
A lot of times when the police are working a case like this, they're sometimes using the public information forms to throw people off, to make the suspect think that they're not onto him. They don't have anything. So it's sort of ironic that everyone thinks that the cops were a great big joke this whole time, when in reality, that can be a tactic.
I have said this since the effing beginning. Please listen to the public radio officer, whatever this reporter. This is what I've been saying since the beginning. Stop believing every little thing that's released. You have to take it and analyze it and put it all together.
Cops were a great big joke this whole time.
I mean, the cops... Listen to her again. Let's listen to it all the way through.
Only the killer knew. Any questions? Lauren says in hindsight, it makes more sense.
A lot of times when the police are working a case like this, they're sometimes using the public information forms to throw people off, to make the suspect think that they're not onto him. They don't have anything. So it's sort of ironic that everyone thinks that the cops were a great big joke this whole time, when in reality, that can be a tactic. If you think and you're laughing to yourself that the local police force doesn't have a clue, maybe that's a chance for someone to slip up.
Ding, ding, ding. We've got a winner. We've got a winner.
She said, we came home, we planted flowers.
Vince. Tracy. Corner. J is for justice. She said they all died in their beds. She lied. I think she lied. Okay, Tracy, let's unpack. Where were Kaylee and Maddie? In their beds. Where was Xana? In her bed. Why do you think that's a lie? So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Potato. She put in chat, I don't know if I can scroll back that far, but she did put in there that it does not state what direction Dylan saw. Here it is, Potato. Thank you, Potato. Potato. PCA. DM. Shitted. I'm just kidding. She stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying, and a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. So, hold on. How do you know that Xana wasn't in the bed? Ethan was in front of the door. Ethan, they couldn't open the door because poor Ethan was dead in front of the door. His buddy opened the door enough to see and told whoever was in the house with him to check it out, get the fuck out of here. Call the police. You don't assume. If you have someone that's in your house that looks weird, right? And you hear some weird shit, you don't assume that there's murders, that they're being stabbed. You're not going to know. Zinc, as far as I know, Ethan was in front of the door. This came from Christy Gonsalves, that his buddy went to open the door and he was blocking it. We don't even know if that DoorDash bag is from that night. Because remember when they said that was a Xana move? She was on TikTok at 4:12. Okay. That she was active on TikTok. If I opened my phone at 4 o'clock, on TikTok and let it sit, could I be active on TikTok as well? I mean, I don't know what it takes to be active on TikTok. But regardless, I'm not talking about whether they fought. I'm not talking about any of that. Just because her phone was active on TikTok at 4:12, what does that mean? Does that mean he was upstairs? No. I don't think the PCA says Xana was on the floor. We're going to have Potato check that again. How do you know she posted that? We don't know if she posted that. Where do you get that? We don't know. I'm not saying she didn't fight, but if they were dead in their beds, that wouldn't be her lying, the coroner lying. I bet you do, Mike. I would too.
Looking back,
I didn't say she was sleeping. I never said that Xana was sleeping. Someone said that the coroner said they were in their beds. In their beds. I didn't say they were sleeping. What's up, Jeff H? Hello, Miss Margaret. Yes, you could be live as long as you didn't close the app. Right. I don't know. All right, let's finish. We're almost done with this, and then I'll get to your questions.
A clue, maybe that's a chance for someone to slip up.
looking back of different questions. Questions like, did he know the victims? And if he is the killer, why did he target these 4 college students? The day of the arrest, Bill Thompson, the prosecuting attorney, said there was still a great deal left to learn about Kohberger. And now it was his turn to ask for the community's help.
This is not the end of this investigation. In fact, this is a new beginning. Y'all now know the name of the person who has been charged with these offenses. Please get that information out there. Please ask the public, anyone who knows about this individual, to come forward. Call the tip line. Report anything you know about him to help the investigators and eventually our office and the court system understand fully everything there is to know about not only the individual, but what happened and why.
Okay, that is my presentation here on this, on episode 3. We're going to cover episode 4 soon, but I don't want to argue. I just feel like, okay, if Xana was on the floor in the PCA, that's fine, but does that really even matter? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, whether she was on the floor or on the bed, it doesn't matter. Why does that matter so much? I don't think the target was I think the target was the 2 girls. Yeah, I don't know. If anybody's making a ruckus and derailing the conversation, go ahead and just give them a timeout. Because you know what? Too much hard work goes into creating podcasts to have people come in just to derail what you're doing. So, moderators, I give you free reign to time out anybody who's derailing the chat. One track mind of what? And why are you spelling his name like Jeffrey from freaking Toys R Us? It's Jeff. Jeff. Why does everyone think they died instantly? It's horrible to think about, but they could have tried to escape. Alrighty, I will. Thanks, Mike. I just feel like... No. Okay, wait. Tracy, you sent me a screenshot. Let's see what this is. Oh, she sent me this. And we're gonna talk about this again because I don't understand what part of this you guys aren't understanding. Let's see. Okay, so for those of you that aren't understanding this is this is from the motion, right? Hello, no filter. I saw you say that you usually listen. Welcome to chat. Thanks for making yourself known. Okay. Here we go. Tracy has sent, I think it's Tracy that sent this. It says that the state has been notified that these things do not exist. Body cam recording notes, photographs collected at the autopsies by Tolleson, Vargas, and Gunnarsson. Right. They don't have it. They don't have it. But that doesn't mean that the coroner didn't do their job, guys. It doesn't mean that the coroner didn't do their job. It's not Gunnarsson's job. He's a Moscow police officer. It's not his job to take photographs of an autopsy. And so for those of you that think it's crazy and like, oh my God, he's being framed because the cops. Okay, Tracy, no more caps, babe. We get it. We get it. I know that Jeff said Xana fought. I get it. I get it. They could have all fought. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean anything. Right, but exactly, Miss K. It's not their job to record the autopsy. So the fact that it doesn't exist with these cops means abso-fucking-lutely nothing. Nothing. But Blowberger wants you to think it does. Because he wants you on the jury, Tracy. You're the one he wants sitting on his jury. He wants 13 of you. He wants 13 Tracys. Actually, he wants 6 Tracys and 7 Willies on his jury. Because then he'll walk. How do you feel about a second person being involved? It seems like such a short period of time. Happens all the time. All these serial killers, they do it fast. They do it fast. And they plan it. So they're not stumbling. They know what they're going to do when they get in there. They just don't know how everybody's going to act. How people are going to respond once they get in there. We don't know if Dylan and Bethany were tied up. We don't know. And that's just the bottom line. We don't know that. BTK tied up his victims. We don't know. 6 Tracys and 7 Willies.
Yeah.
Oh, Willie grew up with BK? Prove it. I want to see a picture of you and BK together as kids. Elliot, if I were Dylan, I would have slid myself into a gaseous shock state so I could have followed him out. Or maybe a liquid shock state because then I could have electrocuted him. What's up? Drunk Turkey in the house. What's up, Daniel? Have we heard the officer's expertise was given more weight than the person conducting the autopsy? Can't remember a single instance a cop's body cam was on during an autopsy. Maybe I'm wrong. Don't know. No, you're not wrong. My sister was an officer and a detective. and it's not their fucking job. I would have to say, Daniel, if one of those cops possessed body cam of the autopsies, that might be a red flag. The fact that they don't have it makes me feel better than the fact that if they did. Because if they did, I'd be like, whoa, that's fucking weird. Totally. It would be dangerous for them to have video and pictures, in my opinion. All right, let's go over to, I want to play a clip and then we're going to get to your questions. I got to check email from Mike Sanner real quick. They won't ship unless I go. Oh, yes. Mike, I'm sending it right meow. Hold on, you guys. This is important. This is very, very important stuff. And thank you so much, Mike Sanner. Mike Sanner is an angel. He's getting us all set up for our Given the Fallout podcast.
Given the fallout.
Okay. Sent, Michael. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. We have so much good things going on. Suzanne W. Thank you so much for your Venmo donation. Oh my gosh, you guys are so nice. Thank you, Flo, for your Cash App. You guys are awesome, man. And I mean that. Like, I haven't been paid in March, April, May, June, July, 5 months. It's been tough, guys. I'm not liking it. I'm not liking it, but I'm loving you guys, and I'm loving the growth of this channel, and we're almost to 90K. Fuck yeah, guys.
Oh my God.
God forbid. God forbid Jays for
One
Justice
comment.
makes it to 90K. God for fucking bid. I feel like I've been drugged down the street by my dreads and back. It would be cool to have your sister on. Yeah, it would be. I don't know if she would, though. She really keeps her privacy about all of that, like being a cop and stuff. Maybe we can do something. You are amazing, I think. Suzanne, thank you so much. All right, let's get to this clip. I want to share with you guys. Put a 1 in chat if you watch Scott Reich. He happens to be one of my favorite lawyer YouTubers. I love how logical he is. I love his sense of humor. He's right up my alley. I just love him. And he's been doing this, like, we started our podcast right around the same time too. But I watched him last night talking about Blowburger. And he cracks me the hell up, all right?
Still has his K-bar.
He addresses... Hold on. I'm going to put this up on the screen. He addresses someone who thinks that Blowburger is innocent. Now, this is a criminal defense lawyer named Scott Reich. And I'm sure the mods will put his link up in chat for me. But you guys, listen to what he said to this. He went live. I never catch his lives. I was so happy to catch his live. So, hang on, let me reset this. He addressed a comment in his chat about Blowburger being innocent or something like that. Now, listen. Here we go.
But maybe this is their day. This is their day. And you go out there, and all of a sudden, you know, the players are out there warming up, and then here come all the umpires. And the umpires are wearing New York Yankee hats.
Wait, hold on.
If you're a Rockies fan,
Wait,
you'd say, hey,
he was on a fucking roll last night. Hold on.
Most of them do. And most of them will say, you know what? Hey, if I was that defendant seated over there, I'm not sure I'd want me sitting in judgment of him. Maybe this, not that I wouldn't be a good person or a good juror, but maybe this case just is not the right case for you. And then, of course, you see hands start popping up like popcorn. You know, come to think of it, he does look guilty. Boom, boom. Hey, that's fine. Get him out of there. Get him out of there. So anyway, digress.
Okay, here we go. Right here.
See, we talked all that time about
Thank you, Chihuahua.
Bryan Kohberger matter. All right. Try to take a couple of questions here, and then we'll switch topics here a little bit.
Here we go.
Facey Cad, Kohberger is the real victim in this case. The killer is out there.
Okay, wait.
Casey.
Okay. Facey Cad says Kohberger is the real victim in this case. The killer is out there. Now, Scott Reich usually does not get sassy. But when Scott Reich gets sassy, J is for Justice laughs her ass off. Here we go.
Give me your theory. Why is it that you think Kohberger is the victim in this particular case? I mean, granted, we have not seen all of the discovery in the case, but once again, I have to be able to, as an attorney, say, okay, it's a complete railroad job, but it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I believe. It only matters what I can prove. So, Casey or Facey Cad.
Oh my God. God
just
forbid.
What evidence do you have that Bryan Kohberger has been wrongfully accused of these crimes? Now, I understand they have his DNA on the
Watch this
sheath.
Watch. This is the best
and
part.
Since your Crime Talk host, lovable, harmless little fuzzball Crime Talk host, well, used to be in the Marine Corps a long time ago, still has his K-bar and has the sheath. Okay, for all the YouTube censors, we're not taking it out of the sheath, so you don't have to demonetize us or trigger somebody. Oh my God, he held up a knife. He held up a K-bar. Oh my God, it triggered me. Oh my God, I can't talk about it. It's a true crime channel, but how dare we talk about, real evidence and take a look at those things? So let's think about it. We got the sheath. Bryan Kohberger's DNA. Boom, right there on that little button at the top of the sheath where the knife goes. So it makes you gotta wonder, kind of, doesn't it?
Makes you kind of wonder.
Say, hey, I'm not the sharpest guy in the shed. But for a guy who doesn't go to that school, who no real evidence that he's been invited to other parties, no evidence that he was romantically involved with anyone at the house there in old Moscow, Idaho. How did his DNA get there? Now, I am open to listening to all plausible theories, ones that you can prove. Okay? Ones that you can prove. So you actually have evidence to say, sure, maybe Bryan Kohberger did, in fact, touch that sheath, but somebody else actually carried it. He's just a guy. The real killer maybe was at his apartment earlier in the day. Well, I would think if Bryan Kohberger knew who the real killer was, he'd probably tell them so that he could get out of custody and not face having his liberty or life taken. Just saying. Yeah.
Yes.
Trish says, was the DNA just on the button snap or all over it? Now, my understanding from what I've read, it's all just on the button snap of the sheath. Like I said. Now, DNA was on there, somebody presses it. But one would have to say, well, geez. I mean, they have no receipt for Bryan Kohberger purchasing the K-bar. So how did it get there? I guess I could use I'm just a guy defense. Had a guy once who was charged with possession of a weapon by a previous offender. And he wanted to go to trial because, frankly, he had lots of other issues that they couldn't prove in the same trial. So it was like, let's go. Let's tee it up. He was one of those fighters.
Listen to this part.
Been an attorney on a couple of cases, and it's always turned out well. Anyway, we tee it up. And it was like, oh, man, like your DNA's all over the gun. And we went with, well, yeah, I touched it because I'm a guy. But it wasn't my gun. I didn't possess it. Yeah, I know it was a stretch. It was a legal argument, but we did what we had to do. Maybe that could be it. The real killer had gone over to the apartment, whereby showing Bryan Kohberger the K-bar in the sheath, he took it out. Upon returning the knife to the sheath, snapped it and gave it to the real killer. Right? I don't know. A little unlikely. So if you think there's a reason, and don't get me wrong, we'll give Bryan Kohberger the presumption of innocence. I get it. But let's face it, anytime you have DNA, I'm telling you, when I first started practicing DNA, we were still doing Shrek hearings. We were still trying to determine if it was reliable. And my gosh, that would have been in 96, 97 that we were doing those issues. And now it's not even an issue. That was it. DNA is coming in. They have to lay
too much common sense.
How they got it, how they tested it, etc. But for the most part, DNA is coming in. And most citizens are quite aware of DNA and ooh, it's there. You need to be able to explain how it got there. All right, we've got a super chat question from Juniper's Tarot and Magic.
Thank you, Scott, for common sense. Common sense. Subscribe to Crime Talk. He's amazing. He breaks it down. He's sensible. And he makes sense. And he's a criminal defense attorney. He's not one that wants to be. He actually is one. So let's get over to your questions and comments for today. The funnest part of our live. And let's see what you guys are saying. All right. Sent you a Cash App. Thank you, Cherie, so much. Lori M. Hi, Jay. Didn't say in the affidavit, police could see Xana on the floor from the hallway. Also, if the loud thud was Kaylee fighting for her life, but her and Maddie were both found in the bed. Man, I don't know what to make of the sounds and all of that. I can't put it all together because we don't have all of that. What did you think of the signing with the left hand part? Can forensics differentiate? Maybe, yes. What happened to the dog? I've heard so many differing accounts, says Zink Floyd. I believe he's with Jack D. Nomad says, no question, just wanted to say thanks for all the hard work you put in. Love your videos and all the peeps in chat. Thank you, Nomad. Here's another one from W. Smith. Why did Steve have Maddie's ashes? And someone in chat had said that Maddie's father had said it was just too emotional. So maybe that is why. And then Jammers comes in hot and says, facts, not feelings, are important in this case. They have Turdberger in custody for a reason. And we can't forget that. So true, Jammers. And someone said they listened to the whole podcast, but it cut off. W. Smith says, I still think it's weird that Steve had Maddie's ashes. It is weird to like maybe me and you, but we don't know the dynamics of their relationship. We don't know like when Maddie's parents were having problems, if the Gonsalveses stepped in as parents. So we don't know all those details, in my opinion. Hello, Nikki, from one Floridian to another. It's great to see you live, hon. You look great. Thank you. Miss K, BK shouldn't have any worries in the world as he's the victim. He's going to bring his exculpatory evidence, and in the meantime, why is he worried about accessing all these requests from the defense? Really, I mean, Kohberger acts like he wants the defense to bullet point everything for him. Weird. It's like, no, they just have to give the evidence and make it available. The defense has to go through it for their own defense of Bryan Kohberger. Hello, Miss Carrie. All right, you guys, I think we are done here with part one of the investigation. We will revisit, and I'm going to keep going through this podcast because there's more. So the next episode we're going to cover is who is Bryan Kohberger? And that event is up. Make sure that you click that notification because we're going to be covering that I'm going to have a lawyer on Friday, a criminal defense lawyer from New York City named Dimitri. He's going to be joining me live Friday at 3 p.m. Bring your questions. He's wanting to ask questions. He's wanting to take questions. And then today, later, we're back. 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. We're going to find out what the fuck happened with Carly Russell. Live press conference at 3:30 Eastern. I'll be live at 3 today. So come back for that. We're going to sift through, find out, is she going to be charged? What is going to go on? What is going to go on with that? But I've got some things that I've got to do. I'll be back at 3. I'll see you guys then. In the meantime, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your donations. I appreciate each and every one of you. Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.
I don't give a damn. I don't really care.
So there's a lot of butt joints we have to cover. I'm like, let's do butt joints together. So I don't want to have to do them all by myself.
In the name of Jesus, Father God, Lord.
I don't give a damn.
Sorry for the cough. Love you guys.
You're being a Karen.
Wait a minute. You wanna be with me. You wanna feel on the rail, but
pull it down below your chin and aim it at your chin.
Making plans to get to friends, but don't wanna.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Just based on my observations, your hair was very greasy.
Staying up late, sleeping all day, dreaming about Cadillacs. Buying new shoes, hanging by the pool, sipping on coke and Jack.
Everybody does that. It's okay.
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
I don't want Jennifer or two Jennifers. Bye, Jennifer.